joining us.
Sherry, can you record it, or I have to ask you for the host to record?
It's being recorded.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So welcome. So how do we make our conversations worth having? And the answer to that in conversations worth having is two simple practices. And those practices are generative questions and positive framing. And when you put those two together, you end up with a conversation worth having. So what this next 30 minutes is all about is practicing that. So in a moment, we're going to ask you to contribute a challenge or a troubling situation, a conversation that you are not sure how to have, but you really want to have it. So we'll ask you to put that into the chat. And then we're going to choose one of those. And everybody in the conversation will first create a flip and then a frame. So we'll choose the issue that somebody has typed into chat. That will be name it. And then we're going to choose one. And then we're going to ask each of you to flip it. And again, in chat, type in a suggestion for the positive opposite of whatever the situation is.
So Sherry, might you put on slide 5 because I'm still on the fish slide.
Oh goodness, I've been moving forward.
We're just not moving with you.
Let me stop and share again.
Yeah.
All right.
There, now it's on slides. Yeah. Go
All
to
right.
there you go. I can see it perfectly. Thank you. Monday, you need a Monday Kickstart. They're perfect. Flipping, create a positive frame. So maybe we can go back through that one more time.
So again, you'll put into the chat your flip, the positive opposite, and then the person whose challenge we chose, they will choose whichever flip they think best describes their situation. Then we're going to invite you to frame it. They will tell you what the flip is and then frame it. And framing it is about what's the conversation I want to have? What's the outcome I want to work around with this person or this group of people? So everybody has a chance to frame it. And again, the participant will choose which one they think best frames the conversation they would like to have. And then we will ask you in a whiteboard to type in generative questions. And a generative question is one that you're genuinely curious about, that relates very specifically to the framed conversation, the outcome the person is wanting to have. And your question should spark new images or new metaphors, new ways of thinking, and stimulate compelling images for action or for change. All right, so the two ways you're going to add generative questions if you don't have access to the whiteboard is you can type in your generative question on chat and I will grab it and put it into whiteboard for you. If you are familiar with whiteboard and you can get on it, when Jackie brings up the whiteboard, you'll see at the very top of your screen a drop-down menu. And on that drop-down menu at the very end, it says View Options. Click on that and then scroll down, you'll see Annotate. If you click on Annotate, you'll get another toolbar at the top. And there are a lot of different things you can do. The two things that we suggest is one, click on Format. It's a little square of color. And in there, you can choose your color and set your font to either 12 or 14. If you're at 16, it's going to be too big. And then in order to type, click on the T, which is over to the right. And it'll give you a little box you can type into. And as soon as you click carriage return or enter, it will, it'll pop in your message. And if you really like somebody's question, there's a stamp where you can use a star or a heart. So if we are ready to go, I'll turn it over to you, Jackie.
All right, so I get to work the whiteboard this week. Sometimes we drive different cars. All right. I just have to ask the host to disable screen sharing.
All right, you should be able to pull it up now. Now, if everybody would, please, in the chat box, type a problem, an issue, a conversation you've been trying to have and hasn't gone well. And you want to figure out, how can I have this conversation? How do I frame it in a way that is...
You can name the problem, name the challenge, and
or a conversation that you've had in the past that you're, boy, if I could do that over, I would do it over, but how would I frame that? It can be a conversation with your kids, with your partner, in work, in the community, a conversation you think we should be having at a more international or national level. How can I break down the barriers between divisions? Let's just start with that one. So how can I break down the barriers between divisions? Let's flip that. And actually, this is kind of an already flipped frame. It's clearly the flip is I'm breaking down the barriers between divisions. So if the flip is barriers have been broken down, what's the frame? What is it that I want to talk about with the group of people where there are barriers? What's the outcome I'm looking for? So if the barriers between divisions are down, what is the outcome? What's the frame that would really ignite a conversation that everybody would want to be in? How do I create more cross collaboration? That's one of them. Any other suggestions? Vicki, that was yours, so maybe we should just go with that. And Jamie says, people work collaboratively together for better outcomes. Konica says, outcomes, how to experience connection between the divisions. So Vicki, since this is yours, which one of these would you like? Which one is kind of the conversation you'd like to be in with people? How do I create more cross collaboration? You can just unmute and shout it out. People work collaboratively together for better outcomes. How to experience connection. We experience connection between divisions.
I think that last one, how to experience connection, because that's really where we are. People work collaboratively on a case-by-case basis when they find the need to have to, but they're not engaging beyond that to create more visionary goals. So I think it's the connection piece probably would speak to that.
Okay, and would you add to that how to experience connection beyond division in order to foster visionary goals?
I like what you just said, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so now the next step is to type in generative questions. So Jackie, it's how to experience connection between division to foster visionary goals.
And if you are having a hard time working in Whiteboard and you type your questions in the chat, Sharon and I will make sure they get on the whiteboard.
Yeah, and we'll grab them. And for the person that just joined us, at the very top of the whiteboard, the flip of the conversation is barriers are broken down between division, and the frame is experiencing connection between divisions to foster visionary goals. So the idea here would be to create some generative questions. And Vicki, again, since it's just yours, if you want to use the stamp, just to say which ones of these really speak to you, which ones do you think will foster the kinds of conversations you would like to have with people?
Okay, I will have to select that my version of Zoom won't allow me to interact on the whiteboard.
Ah, okay. So if you'll just let me know, I'm happy to put a stamp there for you.
I definitely like, and I haven't finished reading them all, so it's not that it stands out just because it speaks to me, the high quality organization statement, because that's where we're trying to get to.
Where?
Is how do we support each other in providing a high quality organization? And we're trying to get people to think beyond their own division to do that.
Any of the rest of these help at all?
I also okay. I think all of these are really good ones. I'm actually trying to pick the ones that seem to connect with the culture of the organization.
Yeah, that's important. That's a great point.
My observation of the culture is people like being more separate. So you're trying to shift people. They may have an experience of connecting, but that's not their ideal. So it's really trying to connect with them on what would pivot you to want to connect more.
Oh, nice. Is that up here, or should we add that for you?
Oh, yeah, you know, it's actually, we can add that.
Okay, do you want to say it again?
I'm actually reading this last one down here at the bottom left that what was an ideal experience when you experienced professional connection with a colleague? What made it possible? What were the results? That speaks to it. So I now don't even remember how I said it. I was just talking. Ultimately, the goal is to inspire more visionary connection goals. Okay, and I think like that, and that speaks to where we're really trying to go. The what would inter and intra division goal and mission setting look like from your perspective? That is trying to get I think that's a question that could inspire conversation around trying to get the divisions to step outside of their individual goals and
nice.
look beyond their division.
Great.
And meeting their metrics, because that's the goals of the divisions. Let me do what I do to meet the metrics you set, and then I'm fine. What was the last one just put up? You had a magic
Jackie,
wand.
can you move that one over just a little bit?
Yep, hold on, I'm headed over there.
Oh, okay, I like that one, because that is getting people to think about the culture and gives you an understanding of what kind of a culture they want to be in. And then maybe that can start to flow a conversation of, well, where are we, and where I'm thinking about the training that I was in with you guys when we did the, where are you? Are you above the line or below the line? So it may help us understand where the divisions are, and then identify how to move them forward.
Excellent. All right, great. So if you want to save this for yourself, you can click the box in the upper right of your toolbar up there that says save, and it'll save to your desktop. We're also going to be saving it, and then Jackie will clear and we'll pull out another one.
Going to clear it now, so I've saved it too. All right.
Right.
Okay, and I'll look forward that version. As a reminder, my agency won't allow us to have the version of Zoom to allow me to have experience all the features. So.
All right, so the problem is my boss wants me to collect achievement data for my students during this time of education. Educator survival. We need a little survival at the end of that. So let's see, that's from Marty. So what is the actual problem? Your boss wants you to collect this achievement data, and
so I'm working with an administrator, and that's what she's struggling with right now. She's trying to just keep school moving, and her boss, her central office assistant superintendent, wants her to shift her focus from managing staff and student and parent social emotional issues, as well as trying to figure out how are we doing virtual learning and keeping everybody safe and all of that, and say, okay, but I want you to collect achievement data so that we can work on, so we can measure how well you're doing your job this year. And she's just really struggling with that right now. Feeling like I don't know how to do that and do all that I'm trying to do right now, and nor do I have any idea of how I'm going to ask my staff to do all of that when they're just trying to survive as well.
wonderful. Okay, so everybody's heard what the problem is. What is the flip? What's the positive opposite?
You can type that in the chat, the positive opposite.
Tough times we are in for educators right now. So we have, I am managing well enough to begin to collect achievement data. How can we measure student growth? Keep in mind the problem, the name it, flip it, frame it are statements as opposed to questions. So achievement data, the achievement data will focus my efforts with students as a flip. Being able to collect necessary data while meeting the demands of education in the current environment.
I think that one right there, that one from Cynthia is hitting it well.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, the one from Cynthia?
You want me to read it?
Flip, yeah.
Yeah, being able to collect necessary data while meeting the demands of education in the current environment.
Okay. We might even say
Yeah.
I'm able to collect the necessary data while meeting the demands of others in the current educational. So what questions, what generative, it's, or is that the flip, or is that the focus of the conversation that you would like to have? Collecting necessary data while meeting the needs of others in the current environment. Or do we need to frame it even more?
We're assuming we're doing that. What's the frame?
So it feels like that is the flip, but maybe I could be wrong. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to learn as well. This principal is really struggling. She just wants to tell her boss, leave us alone. We're trying to survive. Because it's so new what everybody's trying to do. And so the flip does feel like I'm able to collect necessary data while meeting the needs of others in this current environment. Okay. So, because all she really wants to do is just meet the needs of everybody right now.
Okay.
And not worry about data.
If she was able to collect the necessary data while meeting the needs of others in the current environment, is there an additional outcome to that, or is that the frame? Is that the conversation that you want to be in?
Well, I also like what Laura wrote over here in the chat, which is achievement data will help my staff manage remote learning at this difficult time.
Ooh,
that's a perfect frame. That's a great frame. So it's achievement data will help my staff manage remote learning at this difficult time.
Yeah, that is a really good one. That's what we're really saying.
Perfect.
And that's why you want to take the time to make sure you've got that frame, and you got to keep moving from that flip to frame it.
Yeah, because that's ultimately what this principal's boss is saying to her. But all she's hearing is, I can't do this.
Yeah. Right.
But the boss is saying, but if we really focus on this, it's going to help us in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So what generative questions might we ask? Questions that will help us develop achievement data that actually helps staff manage remote learning. So we have what low-hanging fruit data can we get first quickly that can help us?
Where's that at?
What achievement data will help you better do your teaching? Conversation with teachers. I can collect data that indicates the learning that is taking place virtually. So you might flip that into a question that says, how might I collect data that indicates the learning that is taking place? If students were all achieving remote instruction, what data would we want to see to show that? Great question. What achievement data might help students achieve? What tools do we already have and know that we can gather data with? What are the best ways to collect data in the current dynamic?
Mm.
So are these helpful, Marty?
Oh, these are amazing.
Great.
Involved, right?
These are-
Yeah. Lots of good
Yeah.
questions here. Great. All right. Can I save this and can we do probably one more share? Oh, it's almost 1 o'clock. Can
Yeah.
we do one more or?
We could try a quick one. Let's see, let me roll back up here. Trying to work with a peer who doesn't seem to know what they're doing or doesn't seem to understand their role. So working with a peer who doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't understand their role. What is the positive opposite? We can do this one, I think, pretty quickly. A peer who doesn't seem to know what they're doing or doesn't understand their role. What's the positive opposites? Bye, Jamie. Positive opposites. And whose is this? I failed to look at that one.
Sherry, this is
Cynthia.
Joseph. Sherry,
Oh.
this is Josephine.
Yes.
This was Lauren Winsett. I work with Lauren, and she's gone off now because the half hour is over with.
Okay.
That would be a good one to do with her in it, as opposed to trying to do it without her.
Oh, we could come back and do this next week, Sherry, and we could kick off with this one. I can make a note.
Okay. We could do that. And in the last 2 minutes, why don't we just take a couple of them that are up here? Suzette, you say, how can we measure student growth given current, oh, that's a response. Back up to the top. We have a lot of these. Let's save some of these for next week since it's just about on the half hour. We will bring these back and start here next week. And we may take a few of them and play with them before we send out the link and the blog to everybody. All right, so have a wonderful week. And we hope this is a great way to kick it off.
Thanks for coming, everybody.